This is Evangelist Henry Walker. Welcome to the podcast. I want to start a new message today titled, Will the Antichrist be revealed during the Feast of Hanukkah and Christmas? But let's go to Father in prayer first. Father, I thank you for another opportunity to minister to your people, Father. I ask you to use me just the way you want, Father. Let me say only what you want me to say, nothing more and nothing less. Help people, Father, to open up their spirits and not only receive the word, but study the word for themselves. And Father, we give you all the praise and the honor, Father, in the mighty name of Yeshua, by the blood of Yeshua. Let's go to the book of Daniel, chapter 11. I want to look at the Feast of Hanukkah. There's some beautiful blessings in that feast. It's a feast that Yeshua kept, as we'll get to later on. But I want to give you some more background on how this feast is a preview of what the Antichrist will be doing in the last days, which I believe are right now. Daniel's right after Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel, Daniel, before Hosea. Daniel chapter 11, in verse 36. And the king shall do according to his will, a certain king shall do according to his will, and he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against the Elohim of gods, small g, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished, for that is determined shall be done. This verse is talking about Antiochus Epiphanes, who we will talk about in a little while. So Hanukkah is an 8-day festival to celebrate the ancient victory of the MACABEES over the Syrians, and whose leader typifies the Antichrist. This feast of dedication is widely known as the Festival of Lights. The Greek Empire was divided among 4 generals, and one of them was Antiochus IV. He named himself Epiphanes, which means God manifest. Small g, God manifest. So it happened, all the areas around Judea, Jerusalem, embraced this Greek philosophy and worshiped the gods of Greece, small g. So this King Antiochus Epiphanes, in Daniel chapter 11, verse 21 to 30, king of the north, came down and defeated the king of the south and took possession of Judea. This Antiochus had the Jewish high priest assassinated and installed a man of his own inclination in his place. He instituted Greek customs throughout the Jewish population and finally ordered the Jewish religion abolished completely and replaced it with his own pagan gods, small g. Anybody who failed to abide by his decrees, he had executed. His forces desecrated the Jewish temple and its altar of worship by slaughtering a pig, a swine, on the altar and erecting a statue of Zeus with his own likeness in the sanctuary. This Antiochus typifies the Antichrist, who will set up an abomination, an idol of himself, that causes desolation, those who love the true Yahweh to flee Jerusalem. So there's a revolt that started. And Judas Maccabee, along with many pious Jews, joined the revolt. They would descend from the mountains and would strike the Syrians with swift, unexpected attacks. Maccabee means a battle hammer. After 3 years of fighting against overwhelming odds, the Maccabees regained control of the temple, and they cleansed the temple. And so in Haggai chapter 2, verse 9, you can write that down. Haggai chapter 2, verse 9 says, the glory of this present house will be greater than the glory of the former house, said Yahweh Almighty. In this place I will grant peace, declares Yahweh Almighty. So they cleansed this first temple, Solomon's temple. But then the second temple, later on, is what I want to talk about. If you go into 1 Kings, go to the left of 1 Kings. Keep going backwards, Proverbs, Psalms, Job, Esther, Nehemiah, Ezra, 2 Chronicles, 1 Chronicles, 2 Kings, 1 Kings. It's right after 1 and 2 Samuel, 1 Kings, chapter 8. Solomon asked the Father in his dedication of the temple that his name, his eyes, and his heart will always be in the temple. And if the people were being attacked by the enemy and they looked towards the temple, that he would give them victory. So in 1 Kings chapter 9, verse 2, that the Yahweh appeared to Solomon the second time as he had appeared unto him at Gibeon. And Yahweh said unto him, I have heard your prayer and your supplication that thou hast made before me. I have hallowed this house which thou hast built to put my name there forever, and my eyes and my heart shall be there perpetually. So the Father is promising that his name, his eyes, and his heart would be in the temple perpetually. If you go with me to the Gospel of John, chapter 10. John chapter 10, verse 22. Now, Yeshua is about ready to go into the second temple. It was at Jerusalem, the feast of the dedication, or Hanukkah. See, Hanukkah is not one of the 7 feasts in Leviticus 23, but it's something that Yeshua kept. And I'll show you what he declared on that day. And Yeshua walked in the temple in Solomon's porch. Then came the Jews round about him and said, How long do you make us to doubt? If you be the Messiah, tell us plainly. Yeshua answered them, I told you, and you believed not. The works that I do in my Father's name, they bear witness of me. But you believe not, because you're not of my sheep. As I said unto you, my sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. And I give unto them eternal life, and they shall never perish, neither shall any man pluck them out of my hand. My Father which gave them me is greater than all, and no man is able to pluck them out of my Father's hand. I and my Father are one. So this feast he revealed that he's the Father manifested in the flesh. That's why they wanted to stone him. They accused him of blasphemy. In verse 37, If I do not the works of my Father, believe me not. But if I do, though you believe not me, believe the works, that you may know and believe that the Father is in me and I in him. It's like an iceberg. The iceberg's in the ocean. The ocean's in the iceberg, but the iceberg gives a form to the ocean. The Father is Spirit, and he's inside of Yeshua. Revelation 4:2 says there's only one sitting on the throne. That's the Father in Yeshua. The Father we're going to see throughout eternity is in the face of Yeshua. So this feast is so important. Yeshua revealed who he is. 1 Timothy 3:16. The Father was manifested in the flesh, seen of angels, justified in the Spirit, believed on in the world, preached unto the Gentiles, and received up into heaven in the ascension. It's a time of rededicating our lives to the Father. That's what Hanukkah means, dedication. Hanukkah is about allowing the Father to clean his temple, us. Not just on Hanukkah, but every day, as we'll talk about later. And I have a message on my website at henrywalker.org, a written message about Hanukkah, Feast of Dedication. It's a time of fulfilling long-awaited promises. That's what he did. How many years was it after Yahweh told Solomon that his eyes in his name and his heart would be in the temple? So here, what the Father promised Solomon, that his eyes, his heart, and his name would always be in the temple. Here comes the Father's eyes, heart, and name in Yeshua. It's a time for long-awaited promises. What has the Father promised you years ago that can be fulfilled right now in this time of dedication, rededication? But what the world wants to do is have you miss Hanukkah, which is a beautiful time, and it starts on December 7th at 6 p.m. and ends on December 15th at 6 p.m., 8 days. So this is what Haggai was talking about, that the glory of the second house is greater than the former house, because the second temple did not have the Ark of the Covenant in it, but here comes Yeshua, who is the light of the world, lighting up the whole temple. So the glory was greater in the second house, the second temple. Again, he can fulfill long-awaited promises in your life. If you have surrendered everything to the Father and ask the Father to come into your spirit to fill you with his Spirit, mortifying the deeds of your flesh, making you more and more like Yeshua every day, and bringing the fruit of the Spirit out of your life, if you've done that, he can fulfill long-awaited promises right now during the season, and even right now as you're listening to this podcast. So what does the enemy want to do? He wants to throw something else in the way, so you miss the season of long-awaited promises being fulfilled. We talk about the Antichrist. So let's go to 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. It's right after Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, 1 Thessalonians, 2 Thessalonians, right before Timothy. Talking about the Antichrist in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, Verse 4, who opposes and exalted himself above all that is called Elohim, or that is worshipped, so that he as Elohim sitteth in the temple of Elohim, showing himself that he is Elohim. So we can see, because Antiochus Epiphanes was a preview of the Antichrist. He has set up himself as God, a pagan god, in that temple. And he had the statue of Zeus in that temple with his likeness on it. So here's the Antichrist in the end times going into the rebuilt temple, showing that he is God, Elohim, but he's not. So now we have the feast of Hanukkah, long-awaited promises being fulfilled. So what does the enemy want to do? He wants to set up a counterfeit feast, a counterfeit holy day. And who does it? It's the Antichrist system, the papacy. It says in Daniel chapter 7, verse 25, about the Antichrist, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and a dividing of time for 3.5 years. In the 7th century, Pope Nicholas I declared, it is in my power to change times and seasons, to alter and to rescind laws, to abolish all things, yea, even the prescriptions of Yeshua. Pope Nicholas said, I am all, in all, and above all, so that Elohim himself and I, the vicar of Elohim, have but one consistory, and I am able to do almost all that Elohim can do. What therefore can you make of me but Elohim? So this Antichrist spirit is existent in the Catholic Church, and then especially setting up Christmas, a holiday that's not mentioned in the word at all. Yeshua was born on Passover, died on Passover. Just go with me to Luke chapter 2. Go to the left. Luke chapter 2. So again, we're talking about how the Antichrist system, papacy, set up a day to worship the birth of Yeshua, December 25th, and we'll talk about it a little later on. See, in Leviticus 23, you have a feast called Passover, and then 7 days of unleavened bread, or 8 days. The first day of unleavened bread was a holy convocation. They had to be in the temple on the first day of unleavened bread. And the last day of unleavened bread, they had to be in the temple. So in Luke chapter 2, talking about Yeshua, in verse 41, now his parents went to Jerusalem every year at the feast of Passover. And when he was 12 years old, if you look it up in the Greek, it says when he became 12 years old. That was his birthday, Passover. They went up to Jerusalem after the custom of the feast. The custom of the feast was they had to be in Jerusalem in the temple on the first day of unleavened bread the next day. And when they had fulfilled the days, in verse 43, as they returned, the child Yeshua tarried behind in Jerusalem, and Joseph and his mother didn't know of it. But they, supposing him to have been in the company, went a day's journey, and they sought him among their kinsfolk and acquaintance. And when they found him not, they turned back again to Jerusalem, seeking him. And it came to pass that after 3 days they found him in the temple, sitting in the midst of the doctors, both hearing them and asking questions. And all that heard him were astonished at his understanding and his answers. So they traveled that 1 day journey to get to Jerusalem for the Feast of Unleavened Bread. They had to be in the temple. And it proved that, but they traveled a day's journey back to their relatives to find him. So Yeshua was born on Passover. Look it up in the Greek. It's when he became 12 years old. And in verse 21, Luke chapter 2, and when 8 days were accomplished for the circumcision of the child, his name was called Yeshua, which was so named of the angel before he was conceived in the womb. So a male child was circumcised 8 days after he was born. So Yeshua was born on Passover, and 8 days later is when he was circumcised. So he fulfilled the last day of unleavened bread too by being circumcised on the 8th day. So here comes the papacy with the spirit of Antichrist all around it, setting up a day, December 25th, to mark the birth of Yeshua. But he was not born on December 25th, as we mentioned. Actually, December 25th is the birth of the sun god, Mitra. And so people who are celebrating Christmas are actually celebrating the birth of Mitra, the sun god, indirectly, which is exactly what the Antichrist spirit wants people to do. and they have invited Satan into their house, and he's not going to leave until all that junk is out of the house, and they renounce Christmas. Christmas is not even mentioned in the book of Acts. Early historians say people never celebrated, apostles never celebrated, and Christmas was not celebrated until 354 AD. It's really part of the feast of Saturnalia, December 25th, a pagan feast. And in AD 534 is when Christmas was recognized as an official holy day by Rome. See, why would you take part in a pagan holiday? Trace back the roots for yourself. Why would you want to bring that into your house? It's all about the birth of the sun god. That's why you have the balls on the tree. Birth of the sun god. So in reality, indirectly, when you celebrate the birth of Yeshua on December 25th, if you do, you're actually indirectly saying that he's the sun god. And so dangerous. And Satan has come into your house, and he has all the right to be there. Ephesians 4, 26, 27, give no place to the devil. And you're wondering why he's in your house. You're wondering why things are happening in your family. And some people have gotten so used to him being there, they consider it to be a regular thing. There's no way to stop him. He has a legal right to be there when you're celebrating the birth of the sun god in your house. If you go with me to the book of Jeremiah to the left, Jeremiah chapter 10. Jeremiah is right after Daniel, Ezekiel, Lamentations, right after Isaiah. Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel, Daniel, Hosea, Joel. Jeremiah chapter 10. Jeremiah chapter 10. Verse 1. Hear ye the word which Yahweh speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus said Yahweh, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. For the customs of the people are vain. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workmen with the axe. They deck it with silver and with gold. They fasten it with nails and with hammers, that it move not. They are upright as a palm tree, but they don't speak. They have to be borne, they have to be carried, because they cannot go. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, neither also is in them to do good. This is talking about a Christmas tree. It's taking praise and honor away from the Father by worshiping another god, the sun god. And it's a pagan custom to sit under a tree and look from the bottom of the tree up. It's in most of your houses right now. You got to get rid of it. And the same thing with Easter. Easter is about the goddess Astar, who came down supposedly in an egg, and she's the goddess of fertility, and every service that they had towards her, they would kill babies and put their blood on eggs. That's how Easter egg coloring got started. So many congregations are having Easter egg hunts. Do you realize what's in your life right now? And these demons need to be expelled from your life. But it takes you to say no more for them to leave. Nowhere does it mention Easter in the Word except one time in Acts chapter 12, verse 4, when he wanted to keep Peter in prison until after Easter, and then they're going to kill him. But the word Easter in the Greek, it's Pasch, which is translated Passover. The King James people put Easter in there. But the choice is up to you. This is a beautiful season of Hanukkah where the Father wants to fulfill long-awaited promises, but what's in most of your way is this Christmas holiday season, which is nothing but the enemy trying to give you wrong focus over the blessing period of Hanukkah. You say, what about my children? Well, the Jewish children get 8 days of presents. Imagine if the world would go and celebrate Hanukkah, how much the stores would make as opposed to 1 day on December 25th. But think of the power of the enemy to have billions of people in the world get a present by December 25th. Some of you, if you had a Bible study, you couldn't get more than 5 people. You might invite 100, maybe get 5 people. But for Satan to get all these people to get a present by December 25th, a deadline, man, it shows you his power, and his power is increasing these last days. But of course, greater is the Father, Yahweh, in us than he is in the world. No weapon formed against us shall prosper, but you got to come out from among them and be separate, says Yahweh. He violates his commandments about putting any other god in front of him and making an image of any other god. This tree is an image to so many people. Little children under the tree looking at the tree and putting the lights on. people indirectly worshiping that tree, just doing what the pagans used to do in Jeremiah chapter 10. And it's contrary to the word, and Yeshua talked about it, about doing my commandments. And Paul talked about will worship, doing what they want to do to please themselves. How much of the self is involved in Christmas? I want to get this for myself. I want to get that for myself. And people who have no money feel so guilty, and there's so many suicides at Christmas. And how many people go to hospitals and pray for people, but you have a 2-week period of time where they don't. Everybody's taking a vacation at the same time. Who's going to the hospitals? What kind of employer would want all of his employees to go on holiday at the same time? But that's Satan's plan, to leave those people in the hospital for 2 weeks. And nobody praying for them. Because everybody's on a Christmas break. I can't believe it. It's hard to believe. As I mentioned before, in Deuteronomy 12, verse 32, whatever thing I command you, observe to do, Yahweh said, thou shalt not add thereto, nor diminish from it. And Yeshua said in Mark chapter 7, verse 7 to 8, in vain do they worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men, for laying aside the commandment of Elohim, you hold the tradition of men. As I mentioned before, Paul warns against will worship in Colossians 2, verse 22 to 23. Deuteronomy 12, verse 32 before, Mark 7, verse 7 to 8, and Colossians 2, verse 22 to 23. A will worship is worship that originates in what man wants to do rather than what the Father requires them to do. It's important to stay in the Word and don't allow these pagan influences to get into your life and your family's life. Like the word Christ Mass. Most Protestants don't want anything to do with the Mass that the Catholic Church offers. So he got Christ Mass. And it's really Antichrist. The spirit of Antichrist was around Constantine as he started all this junk in his form of Christianity. And it's around that church today. And it's around the holiday, Antichrist. This Antichrist is going to promote Christmas. Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. When people say Happy Holidays, you have to say Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. It's all planned in the Antichrist to cause you to worship somebody other than Yeshua, and to set the plate for the Antichrist coming on the scene where you have to worship him as opposed to the Father, Yahweh. As a spiritual mark, this whole Antichrist holiday, Christmas, Easter, is all pointing to the mark of the beast. Getting you used to the Antichrist's decrees. It could be like a digital currency where you cannot get any of the money that you have in your bank account unless you do something that this Antichrist wants you to do and worship him. The choice is up to you. It's happening so quickly. And this is a season where I believe that the Antichrist could be revealed between December 7th and December 26th. Because again, Hanukkah is pointing to the Antichrist coming on the scene by looking at Antiochus Epiphanes. And the spirit of Antichrist is flowing through the Catholic Church to Constantine and his doctrine, which most Protestant churches believe, with Christmas and Easter. And it's preparing the way for the Antichrist. But the choice is up to you. Go with me to the book of Isaiah. You're in Jeremiah. Just go to the left to Isaiah 53, the very familiar chapter. This is a prophecy about Yeshua hanging up there for us. In verse 5, but he was wounded for our transgressions, Yeshua was. He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. Later, 1 Peter 2:24, Peter said, by his stripes we were healed. Claim that healing today. In the name of Yeshua, by the blood of Yeshua. This is the Father talking about Yeshua. In verse 12, therefore I will divide him a portion with the great, and he shall divide the spoil with the strong, because he had poured out his soul unto death, and he was numbered with the transgressors, and he bare the sin of many, and made intercession for the transgressors. So this is his birthday. Born on Passover, died on Passover. Exactly 32 years old. So on his birthday, he is hanging up there for us, and he got spoils for us. He gave gifts to us on his birthday. What is all this stuff about giving presents to each other? It's okay, but what about what he did for us on his birthday. So in chapter 54, verse 1, as a result of what he did by hanging up there for us and getting those spoils, he's given them to us on his birthday. What is all this Christmas junk? Examine your walk with the Father through Yeshua and see if there's anything that you brought into that relationship that is not of the Father, not in his word. Isaiah 54 verse 1, sing, O barren, thou dost not bear, break forth into singing and cry aloud, thou that did not travail with child. For more are the children of the desolate than the children of the married wife, said Yahweh. If you're serving the Father, maybe you have a small congregation, get prepared for increase by checking my podcast back to the Word, by checking my message back to the Word and acting on it. Enlarge the place of your tent in verse 2. And let them stretch forth the curtains of your habitations. Spare not, lengthen your cords and strengthen your stakes. For you shall break forth on the right hand and on the left, and your seed shall inherit the sinners, and make the desolate cities to be inhabited. All these presents that Yeshua gave to us on his birthday. Fear not, for you shall not be ashamed, neither be thou confounded, for you shall not be put to shame, for you shall forget the shame of your youth, and shall not remember the reproach of your widowhood anymore. For your Maker is your husband, Yeshua. We're the bride, we're getting ready for the bridegroom. We're making ourselves ready. We're allowing him to clean us up. Let him clean that junk out of your life right now. I have a message on my website at henrywalker.org. When was Yeshua born? When did he die? When did he rise? See, there's 3 holidays that are done away with in that one message. Christmas, Good Friday, and Easter. There goes that Easter sunrise service. So it's important that you get all the blessings that are attached to Hanukkah and keep Christmas out of your house, out of your life. How much beer, wine, and alcohol do you have in your house? There's a message on my website too, a written message, wine is a makkah. You have that wine, beer, alcohol in your house. It brings demons right into your house. And when you put it into your body, it's even worse. You're putting demons in. And there's a message on my website, as I mentioned, wine is a makkah, that 1 glass of wine affects the brain cells. And so many people use that as a staple in their dinner. They'll drink wine. Be very careful what you're putting into your body, what you're bringing into your house. Before I get back to the message, I want to mention to you that this is a pro-life ministry. I believe that life begins at conception. I pray for the babies in the womb every podcast. At around 18 months, the baby in the womb, their hearts are beginning to beat. Around 4 months, their hearts are pumping about 25 quarts of blood per day. And I'm going to pray for the babies in the womb right now. If you want to join with me, Father, I ask you to touch the babies in the womb, Father, right now. Bring them to a full birth, Father. And Father, we give you all the praise and the honor, Father, in the mighty name of Yeshua, by the blood of Yeshua. And if any of you out there had an abortion, repent, ask the Father to forgive you, and go on and follow him into purpose and destiny, and don't look back. Also, what I mentioned in every podcast, if your flesh is giving you any thoughts of worry, fear, anxiety, thoughts that are contrary to the Father's word, say out loud, say, Yeshua, I thank you for that crown of thorns around your head. That means my mind is protected by your blood. I only think your thoughts, and give those thoughts to the Father, and let the Father handle those thoughts. And if you enjoy these podcasts, tell other people about these podcasts, share, subscribe, hit the like button, and remember to next time. This is Evangelist Henry Walker saying, greater is the Father in you, your daddy, the King of the universe, than anything or anybody in the world.